So recently, I did a video on these. These are featherboards. Someone asked me about this in the comments. This video's for them and anyone else interested. Okay, so I want to show you guys how I made a jig to make featherboards, to make the fingers. It made my life a lot easier. And now that I have this table saw sled that is a jig to make featherboards, I can make them quickly and easily as needed and in pretty much any size that I want. You can see I used a piece of aluminum. This is the cut track for the blade. It's just a flat 2-inch piece by 1/8, which I use a 1/8 inch kerf on my table saw blade anyway, so this works out really well. And on the bottom I used PVC plastic. It's just plastic, it's PVC. So I took that board and I cut it into strips, and those fit perfectly into T-slots or T-tracks. A real quick demonstration on that. You'll slide your board on. Everything is cut at 30 degrees on this. And as your blade passes through, you just move it over and reset. Keep cutting. You could do this for whatever length you needed. I think it works pretty good, guys. Here's how I made it. So I want to find the depth of my miter slot on the table saw, and I'm not going to use the full depth, just most of it. Then I'm going to cut that PVC board into strips. So I'm going to use scrap wood for this. I've got some 2x4s that have been glued together for a long time. I'm going to cut those down to the same width as this scrap plywood. And then I'm going to glue and clamp the single 2x4 onto what will be the front of the sled. I do add screws. Bear in mind, stay away from the center, you know, the blade path and whatnot. Using 5-minute epoxy, and I'm also going to use the fence as a guide. You can see it's just going to kind of center this up on those runners. And I did throw some weights on here and wait, you know, a half hour or so. You'll notice that I'm using 2 pieces of that aluminum with the fence to create a gap so that I can get a single piece of aluminum distance away from the blade. I hope that makes sense to you guys, but 1 piece is going to go into the slot that we cut. Therefore, you subtract 1 width of the blade. And I did bump that over just a hair to give me 3/16 instead of 1/8. Let me explain that in a different way. This gap is going to be 1 piece of aluminum plus just a little bit. That's all I'm trying to create there, guys. A gap between this and the blade, about 3/16 of an inch. Now I'm going to glue that aluminum in. I cut a piece off. You'll notice there's also a slot for the blade path at this point. I was just trying to figure things out. Once that epoxy cures, I'm going to go ahead and flip this over and then add the back piece, the handle piece. That's why I made this thicker, also to help keep the saw blade more so away from me. At this point, I'm actually going to go ahead and put a couple screws into those runners just to make sure they stay. To give me some height, I also did the same thing with another piece of plywood. I glued it and stuck a couple brads in. And boom, simple. Here's a look at that in action, guys. This is really one of the easiest jigs that I think I've ever made. And I know table saw sleds can get confusing, guys, but just keep it simple, keep it real. And for this application, it worked out great. So I hope this video was helpful to someone wanting to make one of these. Anyway, my name is Mitch, my channel is Mitch Makes. If you want to stick around, guys, go ahead and smash that subscribe button. Until then, we'll see you guys next time. Here's a video you might like. And there's a subscribe button. Alright, guys. Later on.